Alright, welcome to episode 96 of What If Civilization Started Over. Here's the map from the end of the last episode, which looks just insane, and I had quite a lot of fun recording that, really. That was fun. And it looks really, really stupid and insane. So in today's episode, we're going to do the peace treaty that concludes that war. I think it would probably be signed. I mean, there's quite a few cities I'm considering for it. I'm potentially thinking like the Russian capital, the Italian capital, the Franglo capital. I feel like the Franglo one makes the most sense. So, since they have quite a big influence on the war, the people of the world are going to meet over here, the Franglo Union capital city. The capital of Brittany is Rennes, I think. It used to be Nantes, but not anymore, because Nantes is in a different province. And yeah, they're going to meet together and decide how to divide up the world. I don't think for a minute I'm going to do this in one sitting. This is going to take a while to do. I have this other map, which is the map of the world just before the end of World War, or the beginning of World War 3. I'm going to use that for this, but I've got a lot of the border stuff I need to do. So let's start off with the war in North America and the fighting that went on over here. Because the Americans officially won it, but the Texans were still occupying lots of other territories. So overall, I think the pink country is just going to lose. Alright, so I draw a lot of lines on this place, and the Americans are by far going to get the most valuable territory, taking even the capital of whatever area of America this is up here. And there's Great Lakes country, and also some random islands. The country still has access to the Great Lakes through the very strategic point right over here, so good for them. The capital's got nuked, so they're kind of, you don't need that. That's gone. Most of cities, not all of them, actually, not most at all, but a lot of cities got nuked up here, and the Texans are able to expand over here. I had the cities on for some reason, but I'll just keep the nukes on. But this country does actually need a capital, so I'm gonna put the cities back on. Good job, me. You're good at this. Believe in yourself, man. Anyway, they're obviously not going to put their capital in the city that got nuked. They're instead going to put it in this one. So there's that. And now we're done with everything that happened in America. Over to South America then. You may be surprised to learn that war did actually occur over here, as both of these countries gained a bit of land from the Carthaginians, with Carthage losing control. Okay, that's the cities there. And losing control of both of their overseas territories in the Caribbean area. So this country takes over all of these island areas, and then the green one is going to take over the island of Tobago. And then down in the very south, we see the brown Chilean country take over the Horn Island area, which, you know, just was like a really small part of the previous video. Yeah, they took this over, so that's theirs again. And now there's really no colonialism in the world anymore, which is probably a good thing. But there you go. If we look at nukes, by the way, just these guys both have 2 nuclear bombs, and then you've got 2 and you've got 2, and this country has 0 because they fired them all. Yeah, a lot of countries are going to have nukes following the war, which is definitely not something that I intended to do, because that would be a really interesting and fun thing to have happen. Anyway, Europe we're going to leave for later because Europe's kind of a really interesting bit. Let's go over here to Australia, where you got absolutely screwed over. Just nobody likes you very much. Anyway. Okay, so in the peace treaty then we see the orange country here in Western Australia annex all this territory, which is definitely a lot less, but it's more Indian population over here, so they got less. And then the New South Wales country annexes all this. The orange country also recognises that if the war had continued for longer, the New South Wales country would have definitely annexed some of their territory, like they would have pushed in more. And this country had more nukes. Oh, they had one more, but you know, oh well. Anyway, heading up to Southeast Asia, which is another front where nothing really happened until the very end. This blue country joined in the coalition with the Koreans and the Indo-Chinese. They're able to re-annex all of this land right up here in the north. So hooray for them, they get that back. And they're also, I don't remember entirely what their borders look like at the start. Okay, there was a country here, but I forgot that existed. Anyway, they're going to get all this land regardless. They're just giving it. There you go, you have that. You feel better for having a population kind of massacred. Anyway, the red Indonesian country, you can keep the island. It still exists. They are going to lose some more territory with the Borneo country, who did take some stuff, and they're going to be allowed to annex these eastern provinces over here. You can't really see because there's a huge 4 in the country, so I need to just take that off for a second. But there you go. I don't know if I can only just keep. I don't know how much border gore I want in this series, because I might just do this and then. Actually, no, it's fine. Never mind, it's fine. It's fine. We're chilling. Yeah, they can do that. So the Borneo country takes over the eastern provinces, which is annoying. Is anything there? Yeah, there's one city. Has it been nuked though? Yes, so, oh well, it's fine. And then the Javan country doesn't get anything, even though they did do some stuff. They were pushed out of Borneo, and in the end they just kind of stopped fighting. I think they probably surrendered and gave in a while ago. Speaking of countries that never did anything, southern India was absolutely useless in that entire war. I mean, it was a huge waste of 9 nuclear bombs to give them to that country. They didn't get nuked at all, but they're still going to be suffering the effects of radiation, so they didn't really win the war. Anyway, that's cool, I suppose. Not really. Where do I want to go now? I mean, we go to Asia. I think I should go to Asia, really, shouldn't I? Because I like Europe a lot. Let's do this. First off, we're going to see the Ping country annex all their old land back from the Chinese, so they get all of this northern territory back, which is nice, but they're going to take more, of course. Okay, damn it. Alright, so I've done a peace treaty here in South China. As you can see, the Indo-Chinese have moved the border up quite a lot. We had this old map from, I think, episode 58, which is the border at this... Wait, was it? Okay, no, it wasn't. Never mind. Yeah, here's the border at the start of the conflict. So as you can see, they have pushed up and taken quite a few more... Okay, what? Okay, quite a few more provinces, and they've also gained the island of Hainan, so that's pretty cool. But I've also released both of these new countries, which are two of the nations that in need, like, oh, let's just destroy China because it's too much of a threat and nobody likes being in the country anymore. And you know what, really this just isn't a great thing for us. And that whole thing, these are two of the countries that were released, and I also just wanted to make sure I knew what they would look like and where they would be. So I've done this, so we've got the old red country, remember, pretty historic nation over here. It was during the, no, this one. Remember that time there was three allies over here, and the orange Chinese country was starting to do their imperial stuff? It's that old country. They were the western part of the green country, which is the Guangxi one, which is right over here now, and they're going to put their capital on the coast there, very far away from the ancient rival, the Indo-Chinese country. So that's nice. Are either of these countries nuked? You are. That kind of sucks. And your capital got nuked, so that really sucks. Indo-China's just destroyed there. Anyway, I guess we can divide up the rest of China now. First off, we're going to see all of these Far Eastern Manchurian areas go to the Koreans because they kind of colonized that area, so that happens. We then see the Koreans annex this province because most people there were Far Eastern, and I didn't like the border, so I changed it. Anyway, that happens, and now they're going to push westwards into China. Alright, so we see the northern Chinese area divided up, with the Koreans being able to annex all of this territory over here in the west, which is pretty valuable stuff, and the Baikal country released as a new South Baikal Republic. I think it's going to be a republic. It's kind of the old borders, so China's looking weird now. But yeah, that's pretty fun. They've got a new capital city because the old one, I think, potentially may be nuked. And also, they don't own it anymore. Where's layer 28? Yeah. Oh no, maybe it's not. But the cities, there's not that many cities really in this country that haven't been nuked, so northern China really suffered a lot, and the Baikal country didn't have a fun time in this conflict. Anyway, in the peace treaty, or at the end of the war, we can see the Tibetan country occupied a ton of western China. So this country is going to be allowed to annex some of that because some of these areas want to join the Tibetan country, or potentially rejoin it, depending. Like this western area, which is going to rejoin it, so there's that. And then they also annexes the other stuff in the north. So now China looks really strange, and they're going to get partitioned up themselves. Firstly, however, we see the Philippines divide up their country, so they divide it into two separate areas, a North and a South Filipino nation. So that's nice. In the north, apparently the Chinese are hanging on over in the east. But there's that. Actually, to remove. Okay, wrong pink. I was like, well, it's the same pink color. It's not. In the north, these guys are pushed out, and there you go. The Philippines has two new nations, but back to actual China. Alright, so I've completely partitioned up China. It looks very strange, but let's give these guys some capital cities. Yeah, China's gone. How weird. Anyway, most of these countries, if not all of them, which is, I mean all of them, aren't ethno countries, like ethno-states. There's no... all of your cities have been nuked. That sucks so much. Okay, so you're going to put your capital... I know where's a good spot to put your capital, really. This sucks for you. I'm going to put yours there. This purple country is obviously going to put theirs in the old capital, which is right here. They are technically the capital city country. The brown team hasn't been nuked at all. It's kind of red. The green country is going to put theirs there. The blue country is going to put theirs over here in the east, kind of close to the coastal sort of stuff. The blue country you can put theirs there, red country you can put theirs here, orange country's there. The Koreans have taken over this peninsula just to kind of monitor China, I suppose. You can put yours over here. You have a lot of cities in your country. You've got a pretty good area. You can put yours in this kind of central bit. North Taiwan's going to put theirs in the north. The blue country down here is going to put theirs in this city. Green country's already got one. You look like a Hoover. You can put yours here in the center. Hoover country, you can have yours right here. And then this tiny grey one that I made just for fun, you can put yours there. Alright, nice. We have a ton of new countries in China, and a lot of them are nuked to bits. But there you go. China looks really disgusting at this point. Anyway, let's head over to other parts of the world. By the way, that took me so long to draw all of these. Hopefully the borders are kind of nice. It's not perfect, but it's alright. Alright, so the Russians will have some demands placed on them in the peace treaty, because they did kind of lose, and one of these demands is for the releasing of the old pink country, which wasn't that old and isn't that old, but they're back, so more people can suffer living in this country. Although I feel like if I had been annexed by Russia and I lived here, I would definitely move to the east. So debatable how many people there really are there. Anyway, over to Mongolia. Alright, so the Tibetans placed demands on the Russian south, so they annexed both of these areas, and also the Mongolians, so they annexed both of these areas. So Tibet is now an absolutely huge country, a freaking behemoth, and probably one of the stronger countries in the entire world. I mean, they already were, but definitely at this point, with influence to gain in China, and also, I mean, their alliance hasn't been disbanded. I mean, China's been kicked out, because they don't exist, but there's still technically an alliance between them, the Ganjiatic country, and Kashmir. Alright, so something I've talked about before is the fact that Kashmir is kind of like the descendant of the Tibetan country. They rebelled away from the Mint team when they annexed all this stuff. So what we see happen here is Kashmir gain some of the old territory from the very old Tibetan country back like a while ago. I don't know if I want to give them all this stuff. Probably not really. That would look kind of weird. So you're going to get this land over here in the north instead. I probably should have thought about that before. But hey, I didn't. So yeah, we have all of that. Yeah, they've also got the Happy Lizard looking province, so that's cool. Anyway, the Kashmiri country annexes a few more territories down here. I assume it like the border, so I gave them some more stuff, and that looks nicer. And then following that, they also annexed these provinces from the Mint country, who's going to also lose some stuff to the Salmon country, who didn't fully invade them, but they don't care. They don't really like the Mint country. The real victors in the Central Asian theatre were the Chinese allies, at least 3 Central Asian ones. So they kind of get to make the decisions in the peace treaty, and they're like, hey, you know, the Salmon country kind of fought well, and at the end of it, we kind of liked them. So yeah, this peace treaty looks insane. Anyway, Pakistan needs to be divided up more. Alright, so I've just divided up Pakistan. Over here we can see that the Pakistani country has been pushed back a lot. Okay, thanks. And they used to own all of this stuff. However, now the Indian country's been bought back. Oh no. Wait, what? They owned more than that. They owned this as well. Oh, wrong layer. Wrong layer. I see. I may just be stupid, guys. I don't know what layer I'm looking for. Well, I don't know. You know they own this area, and then it's gone to the Ganjiatic country now. And we also have the Indian country only having this stuff with the rest of it's in this country. So they got recompensed with a ton of... I'm on the province map. A ton of the territory right here, which isn't really Indian, but oh well, they take it anyway. We're going to see the Central Asian country annex these 2 areas. Okay. These 2 areas, which doesn't really change a whole lot on the borders, but it changes something. They technically freed themselves at the end of the war, and I might change this. Alright, so Persia is released. I think I might have been recording by accident there for a second. I don't know. I'm confused. Persia's back though. They lost a lot of territory before. They also lost some to the Central Asian country, but now they're back. They exist once again as a nation, and they need to give them capital, which I forgot to do. So both India and Persia have returned. Pakistan's like a major loser in this war. Nothing went well for them. And then the Salmon country annexes both of these provinces from Pakistan, and following that, Pakistan is finally free of any more territorial demands, and they can just be kind of sad now. So there's that. Anyway, we need to release some more countries, because the Persian country was basically allowed to have the same borders back, which means the Orange country, which did annex some Persian lands before, is forced to look like this again, which I think looks cool. I like the cool claw thing they've got. But they have returned. So the Arabic Union, as you can see, is being kind of torn apart in some areas, which is, oh well, we'll deal with it. And kind of a shame, I suppose, for them. Also, sometimes. Sometimes this just really annoys me. They could theoretically have been folded into the Central Asian country, but that didn't happen. Alright, so the Aral country is going to be returned into existence. They do not, however, regain all of their territory. The Aral country only took control of the southern area, and somehow the Russian diplomats managed to convince everyone to just let them release a southern Aral country. But there we go, they're back. Alright, so over in Africa, we're going to see these 4 African countries being released. I think the brown one has their capital, so I'm going to have to give them that back. But they also lost some land to the blue country down here, so we're going to have to see what happens to them. Anyway, all 3 of these countries will regain their capital cities. Okay, stupid Egyptians. Why don't you just accept your capital city back? Anyway, cool. Layer 28, yes. It's turning into a phrase in my mind, but it's not actually like a phrase, but I've said it so many times. Anyway, cool. So the brown country re-annexes all of this territory, which means they can also regain the capital city, so they turn... Okay, great. They turn this into their capital, and then as for the remainder of this country, well, this country had an eastern half a while ago, but they got split in two as this bit joined China, so we see the country allowed to keep its capital city, although all of this land goes to the Hejaz country, and then it reunites with this territory. It's stripped from the Arabic Union. This isn't Hejaz, it's just a Hejaz religion nation, which is annexed a lot of non-Hejaz religion areas, so that's great. Anyway, Tanzania. Alright, so Tanzania had a civil war during the conflict, so this country will be released from them in the south. They didn't beat it in the end, so it got its independence. And this country has no coastal cities, so that kind of sucks. And they're going to put their capital over here instead. Nice. Anyway, back up to the north. Alright, and then the red country will annex all of these Carthaginian areas here in the north. We're going to find the religion there in a second. There we go. Got a lot of Carthaginian stuff in the northern part of this country, so they take over all of that, which makes Tanzania look really weird. Alright, I'm back. I mean, of course... Oh, wait. I wasn't meant to have this. Yeah, of course, for you guys, that was... What? There was no change in time, but for me, it's a new day. But yeah, I should be, revising for tests and stuff, but I'm not, because I really like this, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, we're doing this now. Maybe I should go and revise these tests. But first off, we need to bring back the Libyan country, so that's what we're going to be doing here. Here's the cool shape, and here's the color. So they were occupied by both the Carthaginians and the Arabic Union, but now they're free again, so that's cool. So they gain all of this land here in the west, back, and then all the eastern land as well. Of course, that was unintuitive. As compensation, however, and due to the collapse of the Carthaginians, who then, the Libyans occupied some of the stuff, the Libyans are able to gain all of this territory, so that's good for them. Alright, and here's a colour that you should hopefully be familiar with, even if you're not really familiar with the country, because it's an entirely new nation. It is the nation of Morocco, which I've just created. I'm not sure I love the borders. There's this bit in the center, which is kind of but I feel like it's probably the best that I can make. However, they will gain some other territories over here in the north, especially over here in Iberia, as they take over all of these 4 provinces from the Spanish. So I guess we're going to do that peace treaty now. We're going to finally move to Europe. But yeah, they take over all these lands, whilst the rest of them are going to go to a completely different country, which is going to be, the pink Spanish country. So they're brought back with the majority of the territory. They also annex, of course, all of this stuff, and then along with that, I'm pretty sure they owned these islands before, didn't they? Nope, but those were Catalonians, so I guess the Catalonians get those back. However, one major change is going to be made, which is that all of these territories over here will be given over to the new Moroccan country. So that is pretty okay. Good job, me. That's pretty good, and it looks something like this. So might change that. I donated 1 border to the Moroccans, but I think this actually makes quite a big difference. It makes things look nicer. Anyway, moving on, we do need to bring back another country, and it's going to be the Catalonians. So I also need to grab the green Catalonian color. Their nation is going to have their borders completely restored. Some of their land here in the north was given to them in the peace treaty of World War II, to try and weaken the French, and also because they hated their border. I guess you also own these islands, so oh well, sorry for forgetting about that. But they get to keep that land because I hated the border. And everything's good now. We can also go to one of these other maps. This map. Wow. Where is it? Actually, let's go to one of the this one. That works. This is my possible history map for if the other team won World War One. The French, I think, I thought would probably have an economic crash. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, the Spanish are going to lose some more territories here in the north, so they're going to lose all of this land, and then the Germans, we might as well just do this now. They're going to lose that land as well. And then the blue Spanish look really, really weird. So I also messed around with the border over here as a compensation for the pink Spanish. They got some land up in the north, and then the Catalonians got some more territory because they did some good fighting or something. I don't know. I wanted to change the border. That is my motivation for everything. Also, we didn't quite finish with the Carthaginian peace deal as the Italians take over the island of Sardinia, but I was just going to leave that for a bit because more on them later. And then also we need to do some stuff for the Moroccans, which is give them their own capital city because they're going to need one of those. Which cities have been nuked? That's a good one. Oh, quite a lot of them have been nuked. I was going to put your capital in that one. I might still do it just because. There you go. You have your capital there. It's fine. Anyway, cool. Morocco is a country that exists. They're very pale, but it's fine. Anyway, let's go to the Italians. I'm realizing now I get to Europe, the map from the end of, just before World War 3 would probably be pretty useful, so I'm going to use that. So the Italians will be annexing back all of their old territory from the Arabic Union, so they gain all of this, and then of course also the island of Sicily. Malta was meant to be owned by the Arabic Union, I just never coloured it in, and now we get to return another pretty old country, which is the Netherlands. So they will be coming back from the dead. The major war goal for the Franco Union was to bring back a pretty ancient ally. I think it was the first country in their alliance, like the British. Their first ally was the Dutch. Which was the Triangle Alliance, which was then the alliance that fought in World War II and World War One. So they have returned. Speaking of the Franco Union, they will be annexing all of Scotland, along the Faroe Islands, the Orkney and Shetland Islands, and then all of Ireland. People think this is a very democratic and good country, which it is really, and they're going to let them annex all that stuff. Anyway, as for Iceland, alright, so over here in the north you see the Icelandic country return and Greenland. I'm just forgot to do their capitals, but I'll do that now. Alright, we're moving over here to Scandinavia. Oh, damn it. We see the Norwegians annex all the Danish land back. That's obviously not all of it, but they're going to annex this territory and then a lot of these random stupid Danish islands. And then also all this southern Swedish stuff, which could have been brought back as its own country, but that would have been silly. So it's back under Norwegian control. We'll see the return of another potentially familiar face, the Alsace country, who has drifted in and out of existence in the series, mostly existence really, but they're back again, so that's cool. And then the final bit of land released from the Germans is this Polish territory, as in fact all of the old Polish country will be returned into existence, even from Romania, who joined the Arabic Union's alliance towards the end of the war. They still have to give it that territory. It's kind of like you did fight against us for a bit, so we are going to punish you, kind of. Alright, and just because I don't think Germany's been punished enough, they're going to lose some more territories. The Norwegians take over, of course, all this northern stuff, along with both these provinces. The Dutch and the Italians are also going to annex a little more things, with the Dutch effectively taking over the Rhineland, and the Italians take over all of this territory. So there we go. They are also pushing a lot further north now. And then, what I think might be the last Russian territory to release, we have the nation of Finland returning. So they are also going to be granted their own capital city back once again over here. And yeah, they once again achieved independence. This was a major war goal from the Norwegian side, and Europe has kind of looked like it's turned back a bit. But there's one big outlier here, and it's the nation of the Arabic Union. First off, what we're going to see, First, what we're going to see is the creation or the recreation of the Bulgarian state. They got partitioned just before the war began, and now they're going to be returned into existence, with the Romanians once again losing some territory. We also, of course, see the return of the Greek states. They're able to annex or re-annex all of their old territory, including a load of random islands that they once owned, potentially more islands, just because nobody's super proud of the Arabic Union anymore. But apart from this, we also see the Bulgarians, of course, return to all their old territories. Maybe not all of them, though. This Bosphorus territory is returned to the Arabic Union. It's not really sure what's going to happen with it, but the Bulgarians don't appear to be ending up with it. Okay, and I also, once again, forgot to draw the cool lines, so you can see what they annex. The Bulgarians will take some more land from the southern, okay, I just can't talk at this point, southern areas of the Romanian country, and I want to just get this right, but it won't let me. Okay, so these are the areas of the Romanian country, so that's Europe. As we do actually see the Romanians gain some territory from the Russians in all of this territory, so that's great for Romania. They definitely got a net plus in this war. They didn't. Next, we brought back into existence is the very historic nation of Caucasia. However, we see this estranged Ukrainian area, and surprisingly enough, it's given to Russia. So Russia does actually gain something from this war, and it's a really strategic and beneficial territory. And now the Russians have access to the Black Sea. I think that might be all of the territorial changes that are going to be made to Russia. So not horrible for the Russians. Anyway, let's do Arabic Union stuff. First off, we see the Egyptians annex all of this territory from the Arabic Union. Looks a bit strange, but I'll explain why in a second. Then here we can see the Persian religion spreads up into this area, and also Persian culture into the southern area. So we see the Persians recompense for this territory over here, kind of for the losses out in the east. And then likewise here for the Orange country, they can push their border slightly further west. So they get this whole province. But there you go. The world doesn't really like the Arabic Union because they did some pretty controversial stuff, and the country's kind of fallen into a military dictatorship. So at this point, everything's getting partitioned up. Next, we need to head to the Horn of Africa as we see this large East African region given its independence. I might go and change its color just because this blends in a lot. This color kind of looks better, I think. There's a lot of blues in this region already. Next up, we see an interesting deal created where the Bulgarians. Okay, what did I do with this map? I changed it. The Bulgarians will not gain all of this territory around here in the Bosphorus Strait. Instead, it's given to its own new country. However, the Bulgarians do gain access to the Aegean Sea through this territory, so it's kind of a good trade for the Bulgarians, and they're kind of viewed as a victor in this war through their rebellions and independence stuff. So that's cool, and we have our first new Arabic Union country. And next up, we see the island of Socotra, again pretty controversial independence, just because why bother? But there you go, Socotra is its own country now, and I just kind of wanted to do this for fun. Yeah, Arabic Union, there we go. Next up, we see another fairly historic region gain its independence, and if you don't really recognize the borders, that makes sense. It's the borders of the Italian colony here in western Anatolia. This was meant to go to the Greeks following World War II, but it didn't because they lost. So this country has now achieved its own independence as kind of like a Shmina. Anyway, I don't know where it's going to put its capital, like down there probably. Anyway, speaking of historic countries down here in Anatolia, the Turkish country probably qualifies as the most historic one. Basically the Ottomans, so they're back. Another new island nation is carved out here in Cyprus. Alright, and to finish off the Anatolian peace deal, we see this other new exquisite looking nation carved out. So they're going to put their capital right over here, and the Cypriots can put theirs over there. We do need to bring back yet another historic country there. As we see the return of the Mesopotamians and the Omani country, and also this random Medinan country. Down here, I'm just going to form a new nation. I'm not really sure what to do with that. I was going to give it to Oman, and technically it does go to them, but it's its own country now, so that's fun. As for Bahrain, you're not going to get your own country, because I don't like you enough, Bahrain. Sorry. But yeah, now both of these countries, they're not going to exist like this. The Mesopotamian Arabic Union country was far too threatening for the world and the peace in general, with the Russians and also other countries, like surprisingly the Franco-Union, kind of going against the existence of these two strong countries. We're going to see it fully partitioned up. As we see a very historic nation reappear over here in the Middle East, and it's the nation of Hijaz. The old Hijaz country, a nation that I bet nobody thought would ever return, has made its way back onto the map. And not only have they made their way back onto the map, a completely new country has, which is going to be this South Sinai one, which is like, I don't know why I meant that, because it's really taking the excitement away from the extremely historic and kind of dangerous nation, and also the one that you have to thank for your independence, because you were a crusader formed guy. But there you go, I have a couple of new countries here in the Middle East already, and I guess now I just partition everything up. And of course there is one nation that I was forgetting to bring back, and it's the great nation of Daman, this random eastern country over here, which I would say has its own separate kind of ethnic sort of thing. It doesn't really, but you know what, I like them enough to bring them back, so they exist now, and that's cool. Anyway, back to dividing stuff up. First off, we'll see the expansion of the Hijaz country further south. This is now the third section to me recording the peace treaty of World War III. It's still the same thing for you, but here I have divided up the Mesopotamian part of the Arabic Union. So as you can see, there's a ton of new countries. I don't know if I really like how this one looks or the color it is, so I might go change that. Maybe not right now though. There's more time. There we go. So there you go. Now we need to divide up the Omani country. I have changed some of the borders, like the one in Daman. I didn't like how it looked, so I altered that. And all these countries need capitals, and maybe we don't need the pink one. No more pink country. And here I have created all the new Arabic Union ex-Arabic Union countries. They all got their own capital cities now, and there's really nothing else that we need to do in this peace treaty except deal with the core Mesopotamian territory, because everyone's kind of afraid of this thing coming back. They nuked a lot of the world. And speaking of nukes, I did update China's nuclear stuff. So China's nuclear bombs, they had... Okay, what's going on there? What's going on in the Baikal country, or South Baikal Republic? Whoops, I got rid of their nukes, because they also stole some nukes from the Chinese. They got two. But yeah, a lot of these countries ended up with extra nuclear bombs from the Chinese, as it all got divided up. And random people just stole them. The Indo-Chinese and the Koreans didn't get any though, but that's probably fine. Anyway, I think the Tibetan country did though, and the Filipino ones as well. But yeah, so I also had to deal with the other. There's not even like 58 in this country. I don't know where your nukes are. I don't know how you have 34. That can't be right, can it? I don't know. I'll find out after this. And then Russia's technically got 36 within their country. So, yeah, I'll sort it out and we'll see what happens. And I'll divide them up between these guys so we can have loads of, like, very small nuclear wars. Anyway, Arabic Union stuff. They're not going to keep this capital area around. And here you go. So, I don't know. I think I did the border wrong. Wait a minute. Alright, here you go. So we have divided up this territory between the four great powers of the world, not including Russia, though Russia probably would be. Even though they have been absolutely destroyed by nukes, we have the Franco Union, the Koreans, the Gangiati country, and Italy, dividing up the core territory of the Mesopotamian area. They believe these countries to be like the most responsible democratic ones, which maybe is true, but also potentially not. But that's where I'm going to leave it for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. Also, that was quite a long episode, but, you know.